Nasi tunakushukuru sana Professor Herbert. Mheshimiwa Rais, ni furaha yangu sasa kumkaribisha mwakilishi mkazi wa familia ya Umoja wa Mataifa nchini Tanzania, ndugu Balozi Zlatan Milicic. Naomba tumpigie makofi mengi sana. Welcome the UN President Coordinator for your remarks.
The President of the United Republic of Tanzania, Your Excellency Samia Suluhu Hassan. Minister of Information, Communication and ICT, Honorable Napen Nnauye. Arusha Regional Commissioner. Excellencies, ambassadors, high commissioners, heads of diplomatic missions, officials of the African Union and East African Community, UNESCO Regional Director, government officials, MPs, permanent secretaries, civil society organizations, religious leaders, representatives of the media and media associations, chair of the organizers at this forum, invited guests, Bibi na Mbwana, habari za mchana, and Eid Mubarak. I'm privileged to be addressing you this morning at this important event, where we reflect on the fundamental principles of press freedom, evaluate its existence around the world, and remind each other about our joint responsibility to support and protect the media. Today, we also pay tribute to journalists who have been harmed and those who have lost their lives in the exercise of their profession. Wageni walikwa. World Press Freedom Day was proclaimed by the United Nations General Assembly in 1993 following a recommendation adopted by the UNESCO General Conference in 1991. This year's World Press Freedom Day theme is Journalism Under Digital Siege, and it reminds us about multiple ways in which journalism is endangered by surveillance and digitally facilitated attacks on journalists, and the resulting outcome of all of this to public trust in digital communications. World Press Freedom Commemoration allows journalists, civil society organizations, national authorities, the academia, the broader public to discuss the emerging challenges to press freedoms and the journalists, safety, and to work together on identifying solutions. We particularly need to support and protect women journalists who often succumb to online and offline harassment and intimidation. The Secretary General of the United Nations message for this day reminds us of all the important and sometimes risky work that journalists do in collecting, processing, and disseminating information to the public. Mheshimiwa Rais, I will now deliver the United Nations Secretary General's remarks for this important day. And I quote, on the World Press Freedom Day, we shine a spotlight on the essential work of journalists and other media workers who seek transparency and accountability from those in power, often at great personal risk. Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, many media workers have been on the front lines, providing accurate, science-based reporting to inform decision makers and save lives. At the same time, Journalists who cover climate, biodiversity, and pollution have succeeded in bringing global attention to this triple planetary crisis we have. But the threats to the freedom of journalists and media workers are growing by the day, from global health to climate crisis, corruption, and human rights abuses. They face increased politicization of their work and attempts to silence them from many sides. Digital technology has democratized access to information, but it has also created serious challenges. The business model of many media social platforms are based not on increasing access to accurate reporting, but on increasing engagement, which often means provoking outrage and spreading lies. Media workers in war zones are threatened not only by bombs and bullets, but by the weapons of falsification and disinformation that accompany modern welfare. They may be attacked as enemy, accused of espionage, detained or killed simply for doing their jobs. Digital technology also makes censorship even easier. Many journalists and editors around the world are at constant risk of their programs and reports being taken offline. And digital technology creates new channels for oppression and abuse. Women journalists are particularly at risk of online harassment and violence. UNESCO found that nearly 3 in 4 women responders have experienced online violence. Hacking and illegal surveillance also prevents journalists from doing their jobs. The methods and tools change, but the goal of discrediting the media and covering up the truth remains the same as ever. The results are also the same: people and societies that are unable to distinguish fact from fiction and can be manipulated in horrifying ways. Without freedom of the press, there are no real democratic societies. Without freedom of the press, there is no freedom. The United Nations is working to support journalists and media workers everywhere. 10 years ago, we established a plan of action on the safety of journalists to protect media workers and the impunity for crimes committed against them. On World Press Freedom Day, we honor the essential work of the media in speaking truth to power, exposing lies, and building strong, resilient institutions and societies. We call on governments, media organizations, and technology companies everywhere to support these crucial efforts. End of quote. With these few remarks, I would like to end by thanking the government of the United Republic of Tanzania, UNESCO, and the partners for commemorating this important day. Thank you for listening. Asanteni sana.
Asante nawe pia ndugu Melechek. Na sasa mabibi na bwana, Mheshimiwa Rais, ningependa tu kufahamisha kwamba ndani ya ukumbi huu tumekuwa tunatumia lugha 3: Swahili, Kiingereza na Kifaransa. Hakuna shaka wote wana vifaa vya kuweza kusikilizana na watafsiri wapo. Kwa hiyo kwa lugha yote ambayo itatumika hatuna shaka humu ndani, na pia kwa Watanzania na Afrika na dunia inayotuangalia bila shaka watakuwa na shaka yoyote. Sasa basi, naomba nikaribishe waheshimiwa wawili, mabalozi wawili. Mmoja ni balozi wa Sweden, Anders Schober. Pili nitamkaribisha British High Commissioner David Concar. Kwa hiyo tuanze kwanza na Sweden. Tafadhali. Makofi mengi sana. Balozi amekuwa nasi kwa muda wote, mshiriki mzuri katika mkutano huu.
Mheshimiwa Rais, Your Excellency Samia Hassan, President of the United Republic of Tanzania, Your Excellency Nape Nnauye, Minister for Information, Communication and IT, government officials, government leaders, Regional Commissioner John Mongella, UNESCO Regional Director Professor Huizen, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Habari za mchana. Eid Mubarak to you all. Tanzania and Sweden, we have a long history of working together to promote broader development goals nationally and internationally, and we truly appreciate the government of Tanzania's interest and commitment to engage in dialogue on important areas such as democracy and freedom of the speech. This is indeed manifested in this 3-day conference celebrating the World Press Freedom Day and its fundamental principles of pluralism and independence. As we have heard, journalists and media workers often find themselves exposed to challenging and sometimes very dangerous situations. As we gather here today, we pay tribute to those journalists who pay the ultimate price in the exercise of their profession. We do remember the tragic accident that happened in Wansa some time ago, where 5 journalists and media workers died when they were on duty. We also note that Russia's illegal and unprovoked invasion of Ukraine has now been going on for 2 months, and at least 14 civilian journalists and media workers have been killed in the line of duty. Our thoughts are with their families and loved ones. Your Excellency, Tanzania is one of the fastest growing digital markets in Africa. It is estimated that 50% of the population here have some sort of access to the internet. And the emerging technologies allow citizens to directly access their leaders, organize public debates, and enabling more efficient participation. For independent media to thrive, law and regulations must take account of the evolving needs of a journalism in an era of rapid digital transformation. And we do welcome Tanzania's commitment to amend the Media Services Act of 2016 as expressed in the response to the Universal Periodic Review of Tanzania Human Rights Record. And hopefully this could also pave the way for a broader review of related laws such as the Cybercrimes Act, the Access to Information Act, and the Online Content Regulation, which are currently limiting media freedom and the citizens' enjoyment of freedom of expression. In the same vein, we laud the government's willingness to speed up the process related to a data protection bill. Ensuring the protection of personal data and privacy rights is inevitable as more and more services and interactions are taking place in the digital space. Mheshimiwa Rais, Sweden, we have been partnering with the Media Council of Tanzania to promote accountability within the media sector. And we're also a strong supporter of the United Press Clubs of Tanzania since the very beginning. 28 press clubs around the country with more than 800 journalists as members. And the journalists out there are offered training on a variety of themes, including digital journalism and digital security. When I visited press clubs together with my embassy team, they share stories with us, and some of the stories are the following. They say that digitalization offers many opportunities. For instance, the press club here in Arusha, I understand, is operating an online TV station, and many press clubs have their own blogs. Members also appreciate that there is less self-censorship than before, and that journalists can report more freely. But one of the biggest challenges that they are facing seems to be the lack of resources, and journalists have difficulties remaining competitive and adapt to the digital transformation. Most media workers and journalists we meet are freelancers, and they say that their integrity is often compromised as paid-for reporting has become the main source of income. Journalists are keen on doing more investigative journalism and impact journalism on social issues in the communities, but there is no viable business model or support structure. And journalists are also concerned about requirements of academic qualifications. Your Honor, let me come to an end and let me underscore that democracy and its principles, including respect to the rights to freedom of expression, assembly, and association, must be continuously nurtured and safeguarded. Media, often referred to as the fourth estate, is an absolutely crucial part of this equation, not only to report on current affairs, but to act as a watchdog pursuing accountability and transparency. Let me end my remarks by congratulating all journalists here today and media workers on the World Press Freedom Day. Hongera sana, keep up the good work and stay safe. Asante sana kwa kunisikiliza.
Asante sana, Ambassador Anders. Karibu sana, Balozi wa UK, the British Ambassador, High Commissioner. It's your turn now. Your Excellency Konkar. Makofi kwake tafadhali.
Rais wa Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania, Mheshimiwa Samia Suluhu Hassan, Waziri wa Habari, Utamaduni, Sanaa na Michezo, Mheshimiwa Nape Nnauye, Mkuu wa Mkoa wa Arusha, Mheshimiwa John Mongella, Regional Director for UNESCO, I don't know how to say that in Kiswahili, so forgive me, Hubert Gaidam. Officials from the government of Tanzania, locally and centrally, members of the diplomatic corps joining us today, representatives of civil society organizations, religious leaders, and most importantly of all, journalists, editors, media professionals from all over Africa. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you this morning. And I say that from my heart because I stand before you today as a diplomat, but I was once a journalist. I once did your work. And it is therefore a special honor to be with you today to mark this World Press Freedom Day. And incredibly that this is the inaugural meeting, Africa-wide meeting to mark that day. And it is a great privilege to be here. And may I start by saying just how uplifting it is, Your Excellency, Madam President, to see you here celebrating this event, giving your support, personal support, to the global cause of promoting press freedom. And Your Excellency, your presence is uplifting for many reasons, particularly as it's on Eid, a very special day. So thank you for that. But let me just highlight a few of those reasons why it's uplifting. First, as we've been hearing, the indispensable role that a free and independent press plays in enabling countries to thrive economically and politically. A seminal study some years ago found that countries with an independent media are less prone to famine because the populations are alerted to the upcoming food shortages earlier and because the governments of those countries take earlier action. In other words, there is evidence that supports the point that press freedom actually saves lives. Research also shows that press freedom delivers a wide range of developmental benefits: increased political participation, reduced corruption, more effective delivery of services, enhanced subjective well-being across the population. Indeed, it's widely accepted, and I don't think anyone in this room would disagree with this, that an independent media, a population that is informed by a free and independent media is a population that is empowered to make use of new ideas, create opportunities, and importantly, protect itself from disinformation and extremist perspectives. So let me pay tribute now to the work of the journalists, editors, and all those within media organizations in this room today and all around the world. The work you do is not only essential to a functioning democracy, it's a foundation for prosperity and social well-being. And yet, as we've already heard, despite the many self-evident benefits that a free and independent press brings to countries, media freedom globally is deteriorating. Censorship, harassment, attacks on journalists, they're all increasing. A growing number of governments are using restrictive laws to stifle expression, curtail media independence. And women journalists, as we've heard, are being disproportionately targeted by harassment and sexist hate speech, much of it online. And the symptoms of this global malaise are all too common. Media houses pressured into running only government-approved stories, independent news outlets being shut down, journalists having to self-censor, and in the worst cases, media professionals paying for their commitment with their liberty or their lives. 55 journalists and media workers were killed last year, and the number of journalists, this is shocking, the number of journalists jailed for their work is at a global high today. So what can we do about these deeply concerning trends? Well, we can take a stand together. We can redouble our efforts to protect media freedom, both in our own countries and internationally. And we've heard from the African Union, here in Africa, the African Commission on Human Rights has established very clear, very solid standards through its declaration of principles on freedom of expression and access to information. And there are many instruments here in Africa, agreed across Africa, that support press freedom. And what we need to see is more governments using these as their guiding lights in terms of regulation and the way they handle the media. At a global level, for the past 2 years, the UK has, along with Canada, co-chaired a new initiative designed to protect media freedom. It's called the Media Freedom Coalition, and it's grown quickly. It's grown to have a membership of more than 50 countries, all working together through this initiative to advocate for media freedom, protect journalists, and to hold to account those who harm journalists for doing their job. And as part of that initiative, the UK has worked very closely, I'm pleased to say, with UNESCO and Canada to establish the Global Media Defence Fund. And this fund provides financial and legal support to journalists, their families, and civil society, as well as training. The UK has committed £3 million, or more than 10 billion shillings, to fund that effort over the past 3 years. Thank you. Another way we can work together to reverse the negative trends is to endorse, recognise, and encourage other countries to emulate those countries that are bucking that global trend and moving in a positive direction on media freedom. And in light of that, it's fitting that this event is taking place here in Tanzania this year, where under the leadership of Her Excellency the President, we have recently seen some very positive steps, including some long-standing bans on media outlets being reversed and a review being initiated into media laws, including the Media Services Act. And it's been heartening, too, to see Tanzania accept some of the recommendations on media freedom in the recent UN Human Rights Council Universal Periodic Review. Your Excellency, development partners welcome these steps, and rest assured that we will not only support Tanzania on this journey, but be hoping that other countries in the region and beyond will follow the example you and your government are setting. And with that in mind, we would note that it would offer inspiration and encouragement to other countries to see Tanzania consider at least the possibility of joining the Media Freedom Coalition, if not now, then at some point in the not-too-distant future. Over the past 3 days, we've seen the commitment and passion of those who work in the media on display at this event. For their sake, for the sake of citizens across Africa and the world, the UK is proud to join this platform on World Press Freedom Day to renew our commitment to support the media freedom that is so essential to all of the fundamental freedoms on which our collective success depends. So, hashtag Uhuru wa Habari, Eid Mubarak, Asanteni sana kwa kunisikiliza, Mungu ibariki Tanzania. Thank you.
Asante sana balozi wa Uingereza hapa Tanzania, David Konka, kwa maneno mazuri katika siku hii muhimu ya uhuru wa vyombo vya habari. Mheshimiwa Rais, naomba sasa nitumie fursa hii kumkaribisha mwenyekiti wa Jukwaa la Wahariri Tanzania TEF, Deodatus Balile, ili aje kutoa salamu za Jukwaa la Wahariri. Kisha atamkaribisha Mheshimiwa Waziri, ambapo Mheshimiwa Waziri atakukaribisha wewe Mheshimiwa Rais. Makofi tafadhali.
Mheshimiwa Rais na mgeni rasmi, mama yetu Samia Suluhu Hassan wa Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania, Mheshimiwa Nape Nnauye, Waziri wa Habari, Mawasiliano na Teknolojia ya Habari, Arusha, ndugu yetu Mongera, ambaye kwa kweli Mheshimiwa Rais huyu tumefanya kazi wote chumba cha habari pale Mwananchi. tulikuwa tunatafuta wote matangazo na habari. Lakini sasa ni mkuu wa mkoa na mimi niko huko kwenye habari. Mheshimiwa Katibu Mkuu Dr. Jimmy Yonas, Katibu Mkuu wa Wizara ya Habari, Mawasiliano na Teknolojia ya Habari, Manfredo Fanti, Balozi wa EU Tanzania, Mkuu wa Mawasiliano ya AU, mama yetu Win, Zlatan Milisk, mratibu mkaazi wa Umoja wa Mataifa UN, Profesa Herbert Gizen, mkurugenzi wa UNESCO kanda ya Afrika, ndugu yetu Gerson Msigwa, mkurugenzi wa idara ya habari na msemaji mkuu wa serikali, Churchill Otieno, mwenyekiti wa Jumuiya ya Waandishi wa Habari Afrika Mashariki, Wile Mponda, mwenyekiti wa wahariri kwenye kanda ya SADC, mtendaji mkuu wa Chama cha Wamiliki wa Vyombo vya Habari Tanzania MOAT, ndugu yetu Kajubi Mkajanga, katibu mtendaji wa Baraza la Habari Tanzania MCT, Salome Kitomari, mwenyekiti wa MISA Tanzania, ndugu yetu Deo Nsokoro, Raisi wa Umoja wa Klabu za Waandishi wa Habari Tanzania. Na Mheshimiwa Rais hapa niseme kidogo, hii ni rais yenye ara ndogo. Bi Joyce Shebe, mwenyekiti wa Chama cha Waandishi wa Habari Tanzania, Wanawake Tanzania, lakini ila nimeambiwa kwamba yupo mkurugenzi wake wa TAMWA Dr. Rose Ruben, Prosper Kwizega, mwenyekiti wa mtandao wa redio za kijamii Tanzania, ndugu Danstan Kamanzi, mkurugenzi wa wakfu wa Vyombo Vya Habari Tanzania TMF, Dr. Ayubu Rioba, mkurugenzi mkuu wa TBC, nimemwona dada yetu Msokwa, lakini pia wahariri na waandishi wa habari kutoka sehemu mbalimbali na hapa Tanzania, wageni waalikwa, mabibi na mabwana. Nadhani mtanishangaa kwa nini nimepitia protocol ndefu hivi. Ni siku yetu leo. Kwa hiyo nikasema walau kwenye majukwaa tumezoea Mheshimiwa Rais wanatambulishana wote, lakini tukasema na sisi leo walau tuwatambue kidogo. Mheshimiwa Rais, kwanza nichukue fursa hii kumshukuru Mwenyezi Mungu kwa kuendelea kutujalia uhai sote tulioko hapa, na ni kwa neema zake kuwa leo tuko hapa kufanya shughuli hii muhimu ya kukumbushana utendaji wa vyombo vya habari nchini, Afrika na dunia kwa ujumla, ambapo hatimaye tutaimarisha ushirikiano kati ya dola, jamii na vyombo vya habari kwa maslahi mapana ya maendeleo ya taifa na bara letu la Afrika. Mheshimiwa mgeni rasmi, na kushukuru kwa kukubali mwaliko wetu, kwani kwa kufanya hivi Mheshimiwa Rais umedhihirisha kwa matendo nia yako ya kukuza ushirikiano kati ya serikali na vyombo vya habari. Tunakushukuru sana Mheshimiwa Rais. Mheshimiwa Rais, niruhusu niseme Idi Mbarak. Nafahamu umetupa heshima ya pekee leo kwa muda kama huu na kwa siku hii maalum ambayo ni Eid al-Fitr. Ulipaswa kujumuika na familia, ukakaa na ndugu jamaa na marafiki, ila umechagua kujumuika na jumuiya pana ambayo ni tasnia ya habari. Tunasema asante sana Mheshimiwa Rais. Mheshimiwa Rais, naona itapendeza kidogo kwa maana tumesema kwamba tuko hapa Afrika. Ukifahamu kina nani tuko nao hapa ukumbini kwa siku muhimu ya kihistoria ya leo, ambao ni wadau wa vyombo vya habari na wawezeshaji wetu, ili angalau nawe ufahamu uwakilishi mpana ambao tunao hapa ukumbini. Nafahamu Mheshimiwa Katibu Mkuu Dr. Jimmy Yonas amewatambulisha wageni walioko hapa, ila wale wa kitaaluma na wadau wengine naomba niwatambulishe kwako Mheshimiwa Rais. Naona itakaa na ila nikitaja makundi naomba msimame. Maana Dr. Jimmy Yomaz alipofika kwa waandishi wetu akaenda haraka. Kwa hiyo nikasema basi na sisi ni siku yetu, basi tuwatambue kidogo. Nikitaja makundi naomba msimame. Tuna wawakilishi kutoka the African Editors Forum, TAEF. Tuna wawakilishi kutoka Eastern Africa Editors Society. Tuna wajumbe wa UNESCO. Tuna Edi Office High Commission Human Rights Africa level. Tuna Tanzania Editors Forum. Naomba msimame wahariri mlipo. Mheshimiwa, hawa ni wahariri wako. Na leo ni kwa mara ya kwanza wanahudhuria kwa namba hii. Kwa kawaida huwa wanahudhuria 5, 4. Ila leo pia ni mara ya kwanza hii shughuli kufanyika Afrika. Tunaomba mkae. Lakini Mheshimiwa Rais, samani, tunao Ethiopia Editors Guild. Tunao Ethiopia Broadcasting Corporation. Tunao Article 19. Uganda Editors Guild. Kenya Editors Guild. Google. Wa Kenya simameni kidogo, maana mmesimama haraka. Wamekuja wengi na Mheshimiwa Rais kwa mara waliyoyaona Arusha, Mheshimiwa Rais wakanambia wanaomba waongeze visa wakaekae kidogo. Lakini pia tunao wawakilishi kutoka Google. Tuna Africa Commission. Tuna CDC Africa. Tuna Tanzania Telecommunications Corporation, TTCL, wadau wetu hawa. Tuna Foundation Hirondele. Tuna Internews. Tuna Vodacom Tanzania. Tunao NMB. Tunao Legal and Human Rights Center. Tunao NHIF. Tunaye mkurugenzi mkuu wa PSSSF Hosea Kashimba. Tunao WCF mkurugenzi wake John Mduma. Naona wamekuja wawakilishi. Tunaye mkurugenzi mkuu wa STAMICO Dr. Masawe. Na STAMICO wametuonesha mkaa ili tuachane na kupikia ule mkaa wa mawe, tusiharibu sana misitu. Sasa sisi walau tuanze kuwa wateja wa mkaa wa mawe ili walau siku moja na Tanzania tu export kama product. Lakini tunaye mkurugenzi mkuu wa bandari Tanzania, ndugu yetu Eli Kiamisi. Usimame kidogo. Ilikuwa amechelewa kidogo, lakini ameanza safari saa 4 usiku. Akasema anakuwepo hapa kushirikiana na vyombo vya habari kwa maana bandari ni lango la uchumi wa Tanzania, lakini anaamini kwamba kwa kuwa na vyombo vya habari karibu basi na kwa kweli ametuwezesha kidogo. Mheshimiwa Rais, tunamshukuru. Tunaye mkurugenzi wa TCRA Dr. Jabil. Tunaye mkurugenzi wa TANAPA, kamishna mkuu wa TANAPA au mwakilishi wake Mwakilema. Tunaye mkurugenzi mkuu, kamishna mkuu wa TAWA Mabura. Tunaye mkurugenzi mkuu wa Blera Godfrey Nyaisa. Tunaye mkurugenzi mkuu wa EURA Engineer Chiburunje. Tunaye Asas Group of Companies. Wakati tunaingia hapa ukumbini akasema alitamani sana kuwepo, angependa kuwa na wanahabari lakini amepata dharura kidogo. Na leo ni Idi, lakini tulishaiandika hiyo hotuba. Tunamshukuru ametusupport. Tunao wadau muhimu sana na leo jioni Mheshimiwa Rais ukipata muda uungane na sisi. Ngoja Mheshimiwa mnapa amalize. Tunao wadau muhimu Mheshimiwa Rais, jioni ukipata muda uungane na sisi maana najua mmefungua leo, tunakupongeza. Hawa si wengi. Asante Mheshimiwa Rais. Lakini tunaye kaimu postmaster mkuu ndugu yetu Mbando. Tunao FES, tunao MCT, Twaweza. Ndugu Kajubi Mkajanga, simama kidogo Mheshimiwa Rais akuone. Napunga mkono wala utoa maski. Asante sana. Huyu kwa kweli amekuwa gwiji katika tasnia yetu ya habari. Kama tumetufikisha hapa, tutakuwa hatuna nidhamu tusipomtambua. Tunakushukuru sana. Tunao LSF, tunao TMF, tunao Tanzania Development Information Organization, tunao TAMWA, tunao Elimika, tunao Nukta Africa, tunao Misa Tanzania, tunao kidogo, ila kwenye hotuba nitalieleza kidogo. Hawa ndio walianzisha siku ya uhuru wa vyombo vya habari mwaka 92 baada ya UNESCO kuungana.